One of the most important things that I want you to learn in this whole course is how to build rapport with anyone. This is especially useful in face to face contact, but you can also modify it for contact over the phone and contact by email and maybe chatting to somebody on Facebook or Instagram or any other social media. But basically, you want to learn to build rapport. When you are able to do that, you become memorable to somebody. Another thing that you do, and I'm going to teach this the second and the third part together because they work together. Not only do you become memorable to people, but you actually get to know and get inside the head of the person that you're talking to. You're able to gather great information about the person's it, you're able to gather great information that you makes you really get the person and makes you really get into the head of the person. So this section I'm going to teach you how to build rapport and how to get into the head of your customer and what you are trying to actually get out of each conversation that you have. um, you will practice with your list, which you should have made by now, but basically practice this with anybody that you come in contact with or that you have a chance to talk to. I find myself doing this with when I'm in a taxi and I'm talking to the taxi driver. I practice what I'm about to teach you. So anyway, let's go into building rapport. There's just, and I'm going to just list them all now. There's 5 things that you can do to build rapport. Um, Questioning, mirroring, listening, forming, and inviting. And I'll explain each one in in detail. Now, questioning, I'm just talking about asking questions. One way to break the ice with anybody, like for instance, if you decide to go to a networking event, which I'm not really so keen on the idea, but if you go to any kind of event where you meet people, or if you are having some kind of conversation, or if you're having a sales consultation, maybe somebody comes for a tasting event or whatever, one way to break the ice is to ask a question. And it doesn't have to be anything complicated. It could be, where are you from? Or how has your week been? Or what are you working on at the moment? Or just basic everyday questions that can get people to, you know, let down their guard and relax and, start a conversation. You're trying to ask questions where you're just being friendly. So even if you're in supermarket checkout or in waiting for the bus or whatever, you can always break the ice with somebody that you've never met before just by asking a question. Not like asking what's the time or what do you do for a living, but just asking a casual question, that maybe talks about the weather for one thing, but probably something a bit more intelligent than talking about the weather. But asking a question like, "Oh, isn't it so hot today?" or "Where did you get that from?" or that kind of thing. So asking questions is a way to break the ice. Asking questions also is a way to control the conversation. So going back to the thing of when you are having a consultation with your customer and they want to come and taste your cakes and decide whether they want to work with you. Asking questions is a way to actually stay in control of the conversation. So like when you're having your consultation, you're going to be asking them about their events. What is your big picture? What are you hoping to achieve from this event? How many people are going to be there? what's the occasion for, the person that the cake is for, what are they like, what do they like, what do they dislike, what's their favorite color, what's your theme, just generally any kind of question. But basically, once you're the one asking the questions, you are controlling the conversation, and that will also lead you to when it's time to close the sale, or when it's time to conclude the sale, or when it's time to ask for the sale. If the customer is asking you the questions, or you find yourself on the other side of the question asking, you are slightly at a disadvantage. So, for instance, if somebody, and I'll talk about this later, if somebody says, "How much is it?" you can ask a question by, you can deflect that pricing question by saying, "I will answer your question about how much it is, but I just need to find out some more things from you." And then you ask a question, and you ask another question. So asking a question helps you control the conversation that you're having. Now, mirroring talks about just that. When you're trying to make the person comfortable with you by mirroring the way they are. So if they talk fast, you talk fast. If they talk slow, you talk slow. If they're relaxed, you're relaxed. If they are professional, very professional and stiff and quiet, then that's what you should be as well. Another thing about mirroring is one of the first ways to actually create a connection is to find some common ground. So, apart from the physical mirroring that I just spoke about, if you, in the process of having conversations, if you find out that there's something that you people have in common, then you want to highlight that and say, "Oh, you have kids, I have kids too, how old are your kids?" That kind of thing, and build that, find that area that you have in common with people, and that kind of helps you also to get make that bond, or make that connection with that person, that you have this in common. It's also something that when you do that, you want to take note of that for that particular customer, so that when next you have any contact with them, like maybe when you're doing when you're doing your follow-up, which we'll talk about also, then you can come back to that thing that you've talked about, or those particular things that are that are special to that customer, or that are specific to that customer, those things that are specific to that person. Then you can say, how is your daughter, or how are your daughter's exams, that kind of thing. So you want to you want to ask questions to control the conversation, to break the ice. You want to mirror, so that there's that thing of you both are kind of the same, so they feel that you're the same, that you're similar, or that you're alike, or you're the same kind of person. And then one of the most important things in building rapport is actually in listening. So when you're asking your questions, you need to take time to listen to people. You actually find out that what makes people think you're interesting rather, is that you show that you are interested in them. So this is the complete thing. I mean, if for instance, maybe a few weeks or months down the line, you want to build rapport with somebody, and you think to yourself, "Oh my God, what did Emma say? Did she say I should mirror? Did she say I should question? What should I do?" All you need to do, or the most important thing that you need to do, is that you need to be interested in the person. So I'll say it again. You need to be interested in the person, even if you don't know what you don't want to follow a formula or whatever. Once you just show that you're interested in the person by, you know asking them questions, by listening to them, by listening to what they're saying, asking them follow-up questions based on what they're saying, not listening to them, waiting for them to finish talking so that you can say the next thing, but actually listening to them. Once you're interested in them, it actually makes you look interesting. So it's a really funny thing, but that's exactly the way it works, by listening to them. So this forming is actually a formula that or something that you can have in mind when you're talking to people. I got it from Danny Johnson, one of her programs, which is a really nice program. If you have a chance to listen to it, it's called Magnetic Influence. Form is an acronym. F stands for family, O stands for occupation, R stands for recreation, and M stands for your message. Now remember what your message is from the first module. So F is family. So you're going to ask them, you're going to be interested and you're going to ask them about their family. Or are you married? Or do you have kids? Or do your children still live at home? Or how old are your children? Or, those kind of things. So by asking those questions, you're able to get a conversation going, and you're again listening, and again you're showing that you're interested in what they have to say. Back also, the same thing goes for asking about their occupation. You ask about what kind of work do they do? How long have they done that work? Do they like it? What do they like about it? What's the part that they don't like about it? Those kind of things. You ask the questions and you listen. If there's something in all these things that you're talking about, the recreation, what do they do for fun? Oh, how long have they done that? Do they like it? Where do they, how often do they do it? Do they get a chance to do it? That kind of thing. In that, following that formula, even though you're following a formula, if you find that there's something that they're passionate about, then you stay on that. If they're passionate about their kids, you stay on their kids and you listen to, you talk with them about their kids, or allow them to talk to you about their kids, and then if you have a chance, then you can also, and they ask you what you do, then you can say your message. Or I make moms amazing by making cakes for their kids, and make their kids love them more. Or I make wedding cakes for stylish brides, or I make elegant cakes for stylish brides, that kind of thing. So that's the forming thing. And then also inviting, always be inviting. If you see in the 28 ways to sell your cakes, there's a part where I say always be inviting. So always be inviting people to something. Whenever you have whenever you have a chance to build rapport with somebody, try and always invite them to something. Try and always not just end the conversation there. I mean, the conversation can end with a sale, but then you can also invite them to the next conversation. Or I'll talk to you next week, or would you like to have a coffee with me? Or I have this event that I hold every week or every month for moms. Would you like to come? Depending on what your niche is and what your target market is. So the always inviting thing, always be inviting people to something, is something that you should take some time to actually think about and craft something that you can use as a way. For instance, I mentioned in that handbook, you could have classes, or you could host classes, or you could sell at a market stall, or that kind of thing, or you could host a tasting event, that kind of thing. But those are just ideas. You don't even have to do anything that's related to cake. You might just have something that maybe if you do cakes for moms, you might just have a coffee morning for moms, where moms will just hang out. Or you might just you might organize some kind of event, or you might just organize some kind of play date or something. But I mean, you do what you're comfortable with, what your interests are. It doesn't have to do with cake, but it has to be a way for you to get, to almost be like a hub for people to come to. So kind of like a way for people to get, for you to get people together. So some kind of get together, you can do that. So always just take some time to think out and plan out something to have as your offer, to always be inviting people to whenever you meet people, because you're going to meet people everywhere. So have the mindset that everyone you meet is an opportunity. Now, um, now getting into the mind of the customer, still talking along the lines of in the process of building rapport. In the process of building rapport, you're going to listen and you're going to take note of a few things about the customer. And when we make our follow up strategy, and our cost, when we kind of have our sheets to write the details of each customer, you're going to be looking out for certain things in each customer. You're going to look for their values, their goals, their needs, their strengths, and their interests. Oops. Okay, so sorry. Yep, there we go. Right, so we're going to be looking for their values, their goals, their needs, their strengths, their interests. So depends on what who you're talking to, but you'll be able to pick up some or all of these things. What are their strengths? What are their interests? Well, what do they like? They like fishing. They like fashion. They like shoes. What are their strengths? What are their needs? What are their goals? They're looking for a promotion at work. They want to get married by the end of the year. What are their values? They think that work is important. They think that family is important. What is important to them? What are their you know you kind of when you meet somebody and you build that rapport, you paint a picture, and in that picture that you've painted in their mind, I would like you to take notes and just scribble down one or two things about each person. You don't have to know their life history, but scribble down one or two things about each person. That is what you're going to use to follow up. That is what you're going to use to continue the conversation. That is what you're going to use to make yourself memorable. That is what you're going to use to make the person know that you get them, that you like them, that you know them, that you care. Because they say there's a saying that it's one thing for you to care about somebody, but then does the person know that you care? It's another thing for the person to actually know that you care. So by you being able to have this knowledge of their, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's like any other relationship. The investment that you're making, just the way that if somebody called you now and asked you about your husband or your best friend, and asked them what are their goals, what are their needs, what are their interests, what are their values, and all that kind of thing, you would have something to say. You would know something about them. So it is that same care and and focus that you want to put on your customer, to know these things about them, so that they're not just a person that works in a place and drives a car and earns some money, but they're a real person to you. And then it is that real person that you're trying to relate to. That is the way that you can create a stronger connection. That is the way that you can make a bond that will last. That is the way that you can actually relate to a person, so that when you are there for them, they know that this person is here for me. They're here for me. They're here to serve me. Not just that they're here to try and sell something, but they're here because they get me, and they know what I need. They know what I'm like, and they know just they know they have that regard or respect or love for me. So that's it with building rapport and getting into the mind of the customer. They're meant to be two separate things, but they work together. So I'm just talking to you about them together. If you have the chance, please watch this video again, but more importantly, practice. It is so easy. It is so easy. It's so fun. Just meet somebody, ask a question, break the ice, ask them about their family, listen, talk to them, get to know them, have that, have the basics, a smile, the eye contact, and just and you find that you will actually enjoy the process, and you find how that it's actually quite an easy process to get into, and that way you break the ice. That way, when you're ready to say your message or when you're ready to ask for the sale, you are actually talking to a friend and not just to a stranger, or not just to a prospect in quotes. All right then, and we'll stop for now, and I will see you in the next module. Don't forget to practice, use your lists and practice. Bye.